So, welcome to this session about the Alsense Monitoring Center, and thank you very much for joining. In this session, we will visit our monitoring center in Baltimore, which is one of our monitoring centers taking care of our managed services. Here, Danfoss service technicians are servicing our customers 24/7 and taking care of thousands of supermarkets. Today, I'll make a call to one of our service technicians that are on duty right now, and afterwards we'll talk to a customer that are using the monitoring center. If you have any questions for us about the Alsense Monitoring Center, feel free to ask them in the chat box as we go along, and we'll answer them in the Q&A right after this session, where the product manager for Alsense Food Retail will also be available for questions. So right now, it's in the middle of the night in Baltimore, but to hear a little bit more about the monitoring center, I'll try to call up Felicia, who's on the night shift and servicing our customers in the monitoring center this night.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Felicia. How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
Good. So at 4 in the morning, what is happening in the monitoring center?
So right now we are receiving phone calls for lighting. We are also making dispatches to 4 stores that either have called in requesting or had needed from what we have seen.
Okay, so it's a busy night for you and your team, or how is it normally?
Yes, sometimes it's more busy than others. Tonight is quite nice. It's busy, but not too busy.
Okay. So how does it look in the monitoring center? Can you give us an impression of how many people are you, and how are you working?
Well, tonight there are about 6 of us here on site, but there's also someone else working at home. So we do have multiple people working to ensure that, each customer gets the care and satisfaction that they need.
Yeah, so as we can see on the camera, you're not fully staffed, but I also know that you've recently reopened after the COVID-19 situation of where everybody has been working from home, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So you're almost back to normal.
Correct. Just waiting for the all clear from the higher ups, I guess.
Okay, perfect. So can you tell us a little bit more about what happens if you get an alarm?
So sometimes when we get alarms, there is some stores we triage for. So when we triage, we dial into the site. We are able to see the case, the set point, what temperature is either running high or low. We then give the store a call in which we inform them about what is actually going on at the site. We may ask questions on whether or not there may be a technician there working, or if they may have had a power outage. Just find out general information about what is actually going on said site, just to make sure that either do we need to find out if y'all need to go ahead and dispatch, or if everything is clear because y'all are actually working in this case.
Okay, so it could be all kinds of alarms. So, for example, a temperature alarm in a case or in an asset somewhere in a supermarket. Correct. Yeah.
Right, oil failures, compressors turning off, power outages. We receive alarms for every given situation.
Okay, and then you're able.
When lights are turned off, we also get alarms for that. Like if a light may have faulted, we receive alarms for that also.
Okay, so that was one of the ones that you told us that you had tonight, that you were controlling some lighting.
Right. So yes, we do turn lights on. Technicians may need to work at the site to maybe repair or do maintenance. So we do turn lights on for the interior and exterior for these sites.
Okay. What happens in the monitoring center if on a normal night, if there's no alarms right now? What do you do then?
So on a night where there is no alarms, we would find stuff to make sure that everything is going right. we may still dial into sites just to check on them, just to make sure that everything is going good. Just making sure that our system is also up and running, just to make sure that everything is coming through and that we are not missing anything.
Okay, so when you dial into a site, how much information are you able to track from the site? What do you
A lot.
see?
We actually are able to see like I said, we are able to see the case temperatures, the set point. You're even able to see some of the case types, like whether it's a walk-in case or if it's one of those standalone cases, or if it is a refrigerated case that is on the sales floor. So in these sites that are triage, we're able to see all of these cases that are shown.
Okay.
Even for the HVAC system also, you're able to see the type of HVAC situation, this HVAC setup, and the discharge, and the set points and the values of where it should be.
Okay, great. So you're more or less able to see everything about the refrigeration system in the whole supermarket.
Correct.
Yeah. So what happens when an alarm goes off? Can you try to take us through the process of what do you do if you get an alarm?
Okay, so the first alarm it goes off in the store first. So there is a specific setup within the store. The alarm may ring out in the store for about 30 minutes to an hour before it actually comes into us. And then once it comes into us, it drops into our queue. It has different queues they go into before they actually come into the queue where we make a phone call. Because you don't want to rush to call a store that is not necessarily like you get an alarm for a door open. If the door is open for 5 minutes and we call the store, they're probably working in that door. So it sits in the queue for a good 30 minutes to an hour, and then after that it would go into our other system where it would sit probably another 5-10 minutes before it actually goes into the call log system where it goes out for us to make the phone calls.
Okay, and then you call. Do you call the customer or what do you do when you get to the alarm?
So we call the store, we call the customer, we ask to speak with the managers. It is very important to get the manager, because the managers are the ones who mostly know about the exact cases and what they would need to specifically look for. So once we reach to the manager, if we are unable to reach the manager, especially in the nighttime, because most stores do not have anyone at the site, then we have to go down the escalation list. And while we're going on the escalation list, those we do not reach, we leave voicemails for. If we are able to reach them, we do give them the alarm, and then we discuss their options of what they want to do. Whether or not, for some, we may go ahead and dispatch it, and that depends on what your store has, what accommodations your store has made.
Okay. So you wake up the customer or the manager that you're told to contact, and then you dispatch after if an agreement has been reached with the manager.
Correct.
Okay, and then sometime you would send someone on site.
Yes. So we do dispatch technicians for some stores. We do get out the technicians to majority of the stores that we have.
Okay, so have you had some big alarms recently where you've had to do this really fast?
Yes. As you know, we recently had the hurricane out in Texas area, and at that time there was a lot going on. Alarms were coming in very frequently. We had to get dispatches out. You don't want to dispatch if it's a power outage, because they can't do anything for a power outage. What you can do is hope that the store does their part in making sure that they get to what they have done. However, we do inform the technician, like, yes, this store does have a power outage and you are going to need to look out because they are probably going to, once they receive their power, you are going to need to go out and check their refrigeration and make sure that everything is back up and running.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, of course, there's not much to do for a power outage. I see. Yeah.
Yes.
But in some
For
case, you would have to rescue some food loss, right?
Right. So like for other
Yeah.
stores where they might have a store whose compressor may have went out, and we had to wake the manager up in the middle of the night, we would then have to dispatch for that also, get the manager to get up and go to the store or reach someone who could go to the store to make sure that, you know, the cases are, you know, working accordingly, or to pull the cases, to check the cases, make sure they didn't leave the doors open, make sure that this is really the situation that's going on.
Okay. I think that's more or less all the questions that I have for you, but thank you very much, Felicia, for letting us into your night shift in the monitoring center. So I'll let you get back to your calls, but great to get some insights.
No problem. Thank you so
you.
much. Have a great night.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So that was a little insight into how the monitoring center works from the inside. But in order to hear about the monitoring center from the opposite perspective, I also got the chance to call up one of our monitoring customers called Mark Birmingham. To avoid waking him up in the middle of the night, I've made a call to Mark ahead of this session. So let us hear what he said about the monitoring services when I called him. Hello, Mark. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
Good as well. So can you tell us a little bit about what the monitoring center does for you?
Well, currently we have 150 stores in our Shaw's division, and we have a lot of refrigeration in all our stores, as you know. And if we get any alarms in our stores, specifically at nighttime, but also during the day, but at nighttime we may have stores that we don't have staff in. So the monitoring center will call a store, and if they don't get an answer, they call a list of names for that particular store, and they finally get somebody, and they'll relay what alarm is going off in that store at that time. And then the store will turn around and dispatch it to one of our refrigeration air conditioning vendors, and they will come hopefully fix the problem. If we didn't have the monitoring, Danfoss monitoring the stores, we would be reliant on our store management team reacting to alarms in the store, which may and may not happen because of we don't always have the store manager in the store, the assistant manager. We could have a night manager, and so it's imperative that we have a company to monitor our alarms 24 hours a day and relay those alarms to the store. And if the managers and assistant managers and district managers don't answer, the phone call comes to me, so I will react accordingly as well, basically doing the same thing as Danfoss monitoring does, calling all the names on the phone tree.
Yeah. So it is very important that you always have someone monitoring the stores.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Yeah. So how often does the monitoring center call you at night?
It depends on the time of the year. You know, during the shoulder seasons in the autumn and the fall, I may get 2 a week. During the high seasons of the cold and the heat, it could be 3 or 4 times a week. It could be 3 or 4 times a night, depending on what type of weather we're having. You know, if it's a heating season or cooling season.
Okay. What does the operator say when they call you? What happens, and how is the operator when they call you?
They will normally. I actually most of the time I deal with very, very pleasant people. I believe you're off site right now because I'm dealing with a lot of people I believe are from South Africa, and very polite, very cordial. And they'll call me up and they go, you know, they think I'm in the store. I'm not. I'm remote, so they because I'm on that phone tree for that store, they assume that I am something to do with that store or I'm close to that store, and I'm not. So they'll turn around, they'll give me the alarm, and they'll give me the store number, and they'll reference the alarm. They'll tell me that the call has been recorded, The only thing that I don't get from them that I had to ask for is because I have 150 stores, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, if they give me a number like 1404, I have no idea where that store is. So I will request the city. I will request a city, and they will get it. Sometimes they say, no, we don't have that name, but they'll go and they'll find it, and they normally get it to me. So, and then I will take responsibility for that call at that stage.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have an example of a case you've recently had with the monitoring center, of some alarm you've had in a store where the monitoring center helped you or something?
They help me insofar as they identify the where the alarm is. Like if it's we use letters and numerals, so it'll be like A19 frozen food, and they you know, that's a circuit, so they won't identify the cases because we really don't break them down. And sometimes they do, because we'll have a store that will say A19, which is a frozen food lineup, which may have 5 cases, and they may have a designation of A19, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and they will turn around and say to me, it's A19, 24. So I'm able to relay that information to the store manager, which saves time, because he can look up at a schedule that he has or she has in the store, and they can say, okay, it's this middle case because it's identified. So that saves some time.
Yeah, and then you might be able to solve the problem before it gets bigger and before you risk some food loss potential or something.
Well, your monitoring department, there's a process that they have, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but they receive the alarm from the store. At that stage, the alarm could be 20 minutes old, 30 minutes old, depending on the alarm delay. And then they wait, like, I believe, like 15 minutes. And if the system is still an alarm, they will then generate the call. They call the list of people on their phone list. And so we're looking at probably the possibility of an hour or 3/4 of an hour before the call gets to a manager. Yeah. And so that's a good response as well.
Yeah, that sounds really good. So I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you very much for your time. And I think the monitoring technicians will be happy to hear your good feedback about the monitoring services.
Good. Thank you for your time.
So that was a little insight into our Baltimore Monitoring Center and how Felicia and her colleagues are servicing our customers night and day. If you have any questions to us about the monitoring center or about our managed services in general, feel free to join us in the Q&A right after this. Since Felicia had to get back to her calls, she will not be joining us for the Q&A, but instead Terry will be joining us, who is the manager in the monitoring center in Baltimore. As mentioned earlier, it will also be possible to ask questions for our product manager for Alsense Food Retail, Julian Hall. And if you'd like to hear more about Alsense and the services that we're offering, I can recommend you to join the upcoming session later today called Make Sense of Data. See you in the Q&A.